Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone today to this video interview with Sharon Jennings, who is an Associate Lecturer in Social Work at the University of Goldsmiths College in South London. I've known Sharon Jennings for several years, and I first engaged her as a management consultant, and she did such a great job that we had to bring her back into the organisation. And I know that Sharon has a wealth of experience in terms of working across the social care sector, and particularly working with senior leaders, managers, practitioners. And I'm particularly interested to talk and share today her experience, and I know you have a wealth of experience in working with students, particularly around the value of reflective practice and supervision. And today we want to talk about how that relates not just to the social care sector, but to therapists, coaches, and people across a wealth of sectors in terms of how the value that reflective practice brings to our work and to our personal and professional growth. So
Okay.
welcome,
Thank
Sharon.
You. Thank you.
So let's start with just thinking about your current role now. So I know you're working as an associate lecturer at the University of Goldsmiths. You've been there for around 8 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you have a lot of knowledge and experience of working with the student practitioners as they are developing and developing their practice.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's start with this, just thinking about reflective practice. How important is that, and what purpose and what role does it play in how you present that on the programme?
I mean, I think it's very important. I think it's very important in social work or in any other profession where you're working with situations which are complex. The solutions, if there are solutions, are not straightforward, where you have to weigh up lots of different types of information, consider lots of different perspectives, and then recognize the impact that you bring. So, we're not blank screens, we're not invisible. So whatever interactions we have with service users or people that, if we're talking about managers, people that we manage, we bring something to that interaction, and we have to be able to understand the impact that we bring as well. So I think for me, reflection and reflective practice is about thinking. It's about thinking about what we do, thinking about why we do, thinking about who we do and who we do it for, but also evaluate. So it's not just a kind of a passive thinking. It's also about kind of using whatever we come to in our thinking, to bringing it back to our practice to improve it. So we're also evaluating. So we're kind of weighing up, we're kind of looking at, could I have done that differently? If I did, what might be the outcome? Who would it be different for? Who would be? So there's often, I mean, I think one of the things that students often, when they get into reflection and reflective practice, they kind of worry, I could be reflecting forever. And where's it going to take me? I can just, there's always something to reflect about. So for me, reflection also has to lead back to practice. At the end of the day, we're reflecting not just because it's a navel gazing kind of thing. We want to use it. We have to use it. And to make a difference.
So that's really important, because I think that's where a lot of people may lose their interest or the kind of clarity about why to reflect. So what you have done is you have a really strong link back to practice. And I suppose that's the difference in terms of very often when people aren't reflecting, they aren't evaluating and looking at their practice. And so what would you say are some of the benefits of somebody who is more of a reflective practitioner compared to somebody who isn't?
Well, I think in the kinds of professions where you need to articulate and justify what you do, so you are accountable for the decisions you make. So in social work, and I'm using social work as an example, you don't just make decisions. You actually have to explain to somebody the decisions you've made and why. You may well have to do that with your manager. You might have to do it with the service users. You might have to do it in court. You might be, I mean, my background is children and families. So if you have made a decision, or you feel you weighed up all the information that's come to you and you decide that these children are better off not in their family, you have to justify that. And I think reflective practice helps you to articulate why you've arrived at the decision you have. Um, I think if people don't reflect, I think nowadays, well, I think it's always been, I think it's very risky. I think, and particularly the kinds of situations that social workers, I think therapists, I think everybody really, they're kind of working in situations where they could be held accountable.
Yeah.
They could be sued. Um, people can make, complaints and grievance. I think sometimes when managers make decisions and they just kind of react to things, and the next thing they know, there's a grievance against them and they don't know how we got here. And actually, I think reflective practice, it at least helps you know that I'm going to do this. I know why I'm going to do it. It could lead to a grievance, but it's not going to be a surprise. So it helps you to articulate and justify what you're doing. I think that's one of the things it does. I also think it helps you to make better decisions, because I think because you have thought about it, and I think linked to that better decisions, I think it helps you make a better use of yourself.
Oh, I really love that. A better use of
Yes,
yourself.
yeah.
Because I can see how the reflective practice is not just about the training of therapists, social workers, coaches, health practitioners. It's about managers and leaders in organisations, thinking about the impact of their interpersonal relationships, the kind of decisions that they're making in complex situations, the change in work environment. All of those things really lend themselves to why reflective practice is a valuable tool in our modern times.
It is. Very much.
Really, thank you so much for that clarity. One of the things you said earlier when we were having a conversation over breakfast about our talk today was you said that it was brave and courageous to be able to look at feedback and think about, as students are going through their training, very often we do an essay and we heave a sigh of relief thinking, oh my God, we've done that now. We never have to look at that again. But actually you said some interesting things about that.
Yes, I think what students lose out, because if you think about, you're on an academic program for 3 years. You're going to be writing, I don't know how many pieces of written work. You're going to get feedback. You're going to get a mark, which is, everybody's interested in the grade. What's the mark I got? But you also get written feedback. And it's valuable. There's some good stuff in there. You may not like it. You may not agree with it. It might be brand new. It might be the first time anyone's ever said these sorts of things. But there's information in there. And I think one of the things that students don't do or don't do enough of, or it takes them a while to get into it, is that they notice the mark. They notice the grade. And if it's a good grade, they go, whew, and then go off. If it's a bad grade, they feel bad, but that's it. They kind of internalize a bad feeling. And so then when they come to the next assignment, they enter it with a bit of fear and a bit of, it's almost like the unknown, like stepping out into the unknown. When in fact, and I guess they do have to be a bit brave to go back and look at, what feedback did I get before? What have people told me? What are some of the messages I'm getting that maybe I don't, maybe I didn't understand the feedback, but there's some stuff there. If they did kind of engage with it, as I said, there's some useful learning from the feedback that they could take into the next assignment or situation. It could be a situation.
I think what you said there is so key. I think even often when you think about difficult situations that we face in our lives, often we want to forget about it. But there might be some buried treasure. There might be some strengths. There might be some qualities, some things that we've left there that often by going back and looking back on the situation, reflecting on it, you can retrieve those things. I'm particularly thinking of when I did my master's in creative writing and personal development. I got the worst marks ever. I mean, I was your dismal student. I mean, I might as well have, there were several points where I thought, what's the point of me doing this? But I cannot say that there are many people from my programme who have written 3 books since then.
Absolutely.
Because I was able to use that material. It was like, no one was really giving me the feedback about what I could develop. So I had to use my
Yes.
own
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was what helped me. So it's actually by facing my struggle,
Yeah.
which was actually, I didn't have the language for academia.
Yeah. Yes.
It was very
Yeah.
alien to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
My language is much more primal. It is
Yeah.
much more
Yeah.
in the creative territory.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
therefore, I was finding it difficult to articulate
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really, fit into that culture, fit into that system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I use that material well.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
really
And
important.
I think there's something about understanding the giving and taking and receiving of feedback. I think that's also something to be understood. So somebody gives you feedback, and what do you do with it? Does that mean that whatever they said is true? They've got the right and as you said, they may not have given you balanced feedback. They may have said all the things that are wrong. They didn't tell you what you can improve on. But still, there's something in there. And I think if students, I had a student last week. I didn't know this student. I marked, because we don't know when we're marking. We mark by the numbers. We don't know which student it was. I marked the student's piece of work. I gave her, I don't know what it was, and it wasn't a brilliant mark, but it was okay. Loads of feedback. And then the next thing I knew, she contacted me and said, could I meet with you to talk about the feedback? And I was actually I didn't want to step on her tutor's toes, but I was like, sure. How many times in the 8 years that I've been at Goldsmiths has somebody said, I want to talk, because she didn't understand what it meant.
Yeah.
And the student had dyslexia, and she wanted to kind of tease out with me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying these things because I didn't know she was dyslexic, but because of my dyslexia, mm-hmm. or is this? And it was just some really interesting questions. And so we did kind of, I got a chance to explain what I meant and clarify things that she did. And I just thought, it's funny. I don't know how many other times she did. I should have asked her, because she's a final year student. So I don't know if this was the first time she'd ever done something like this. But actually to go back to the person and say, I'm not really sure what all this means. There's a lot of words here. I don't know what this means. What are you saying? And give the person a chance to make it clear. I thought that was fantastic.
I think it's fantastic too, particularly because feedback gives us information.
It is,
and that's a kind of a cliche term that we hear, but actually you've explained really well how we can use that feedback to our best, to source our potential.
Yeah.
And to resource ourselves.
Yeah.
And also, it's a really good example of how we can use the information that come from our failures, because we know behind every success, there are loads of failures. And yet we often dismiss that rich, valuable information that is there in the failure that will help us get closer to that success.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Wonderful. So what about professional, very often on courses, students are asked to keep a professional learning journal or a reflective learning journal.
Yes,
and often students are like, what's in it?
Yeah, exactly. I would say, this is where it comes to, I just say, for me, it's write what you feel, so like as you take it out at the end of the day or whenever you do it, what's on top for you, and then start there. So, it's just write and see what comes of it. But, so that's too woolly. I know that's too kind of flaky. I don't, so one of the things I also say to students is, it is linked to what's on top, but if there's any particular situation that happened during the day, and I don't want them to only pick the problematic things, because I think that's what helps people think of a problem. But it could be something else that really happened, that you just want to sit with a little bit longer. You just want to kind of shine different lights on it. You want to just unpick it a little bit. You could choose a situation, start with a situation, and then see where you want to go. It could be you want to just blurt out how you're feeling. Especially if you're feeling lots of strong feelings and confusing feelings, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling the other. You can use your journal, I think, like your reflective journal, to rehearse. Something's coming up. I've got a very difficult meeting or a session with somebody. I want to say this. I'm thinking about that. How might I say it? Write out a sentence and say it out loud. For me, reflective journal is what you want to make of it. But I know that's not always clear enough for students, especially if they're not natural reflectors. They need some, they want some guidance. They want to be told what to do. And I am a bit reluctant to set it too much in stone, because the whole idea of the reflective journal is that it is yours, and it's whatever you bring to it.
But you have given some good pointers there.
Yeah.
Think about some of the situations that you might still have. You might be noticing that there's some thoughts, some feelings, some sensations around, and actually do some more recording or some reflection about that.
Yeah.
I love what you said about using it as a way to rehearse, because so often we're just throwing ourselves into situations and we're not giving ourselves that time to actually think about, what do I want to get out of this situation? What do I want to give to this situation? What's the learning that I want? How would I want people to come out of it? And this is so often why we get into situations in organisations, and why I can stay engaged as a coach, because people get tangled up because they don't do a lot of that untangling themselves. So I do a lot of work around supervision and reflective process, and in a way using the reflective journal can be a way of supervising, self-supervision.
It is, yes, absolutely.
So there's lots there. And also the other thing that I was thinking is it's quite nice to use your journal. I tuck things into my reflective journal. I might get a quote, I might see an article, someone might say something, I think I want to follow that up. So it really is a resource for us. And is a way that you can personally and professionally develop yourself.
I think so.
And build your practice.
I mean, when I've seen students who've really engaged with it, and they might carry their journal with it's got stuff hanging out of it.
It's alive. It's like a laboratory, isn't it?
Really. And they just, it's so valuable. You can see this is like a piece of gold to them. It's got everything in there.
Well, if I lost my journal, rather than cry about losing my purse, I would cry about losing my journal or my notebook, whatever I'm using at that time, because you can't recapture those things that you put in there.
No.
And to me, that's so valuable.
Yeah. The other thing that students do, and I hear students say this, so I've kind of taken this from, I guess what they've done is they use their journal to see how they've developed.
Yes.
So they kind of do whatever, and then they look back.
Yeah.
And they gain a lot of confidence in the fact, like, I have changed.
Yes.
I am getting better at this. This is, this isn't all still new to me. This is something that I'm feeling more. But they can see it in the journal.
Yes.
And so so it can give you that kind of. You can give yourself acknowledgement that, I am working through all of this.
That's so important, because that is a lot of the times why people are not really embedding the use of a reflective learning journal or a journal for their own personal use, is that we haven't really harnessed the value of going back and really linking the learning and the growing and the development that has happened. So therefore we don't embed that inside of ourselves.
No.
We don't integrate that. And this is why we can still lack that confidence, that competence, because we haven't taken the time to distill all of the rich learning and growing that has happened. Well, it's been great talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing some of your wisdom and your knowledge, and I hope this will be useful for other practitioners and students in terms of their own reflective practice.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I based it a lot on social work, but as I said, I think it kind of is useful for a lot of different types of professions and people in positions. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.